Hello YouTube, Jeff Steele here with SteelNavigator. Today I wanted to shoot a comparison video comparing city water to well water. Which is better? What are the pros and cons of each? What are the costs associated with well water versus city water? So let's get started. So I have quite a bit of experience with both. My grandparents have always been on well water and have spent a substantial amount of time on their farm. And my parents have always been on city water. I currently have well water and city water. Okay? So there are pros and cons to both. Let's start out looking at city water. So with city water, the pros are constant water pressure, okay, and good water pressure, provided there are no water line issues. That's probably the best factor I have seen, okay. And next is usually the quality is fairly consistent as long as nothing gets in the water supply. Not to say that the products that they use to sterilize and decontaminate the water do not have health issues such as fluoride and the chlorine that they use, okay? I'd say city water is really, been more prevalent since 1940s and until now, okay? So are there any real super long studies on the health issues with chlorine and fluoride and the other chemicals that they use to treat the water with? I just don't think it's been around long enough to have those studies conducted that I'm aware. And I have heard recently that the amount of chromium in some of the city water supplies are causing certain cancers. I have heard that. So also, city water is relatively inexpensive, okay? So if you are already hooked up to a city supply, usually your water bill is going to be $20 to $30, okay? And maybe if you're in California, New York, maybe it's $40 or $50. So it's pretty reasonable, and I have found that my water bill is about $20, $22 a month, regardless of how much I use, okay? I can get super tight with my usage, and I have never seen it less than $20 a month, okay? It seems to be always around $22, $23 a month. Now, if you are not hooked up to a city water supply, I think, and if they're going to want to run a water line down your road, and again, normally with city water, you have to be in an urban or at least a suburban environment. Typically, if you're in a very rural area, you're not going to have city water, okay? It's just too far off the grid. So say they run a line down your road and you're not already hooked up to city water, they will give you the option to tap in, and usually that can be several $100s, maybe at least $1,000. Maybe in some areas it's more than $1,000, okay? So if you're not already hooked up, there is a cost there to tap in. So I'd say as far as laundry, cleaning, dishwashing, showering, city water and washing cars and such, day-to-day operations, city water is the best, okay? As far as its consistency, its flow, it has less minerals in it, okay? And the pressure and the consistency of that pressure is really good, okay? So that is where city water wins. The cons are you're ingesting fluoride, chlorine, and other chemicals that they use to treat the water. I think they're very bad for our health. That's what I believe. You can literally smell the chlorine and fluoride even in the best of city water, okay? And just you really want to look at where that city supply is coming from. Perhaps if you're in a mountainous area and the water is coming from the mountains and there's not much up track of water, maybe that's a healthier city water, okay, versus if you're in, say, the city of Atlanta, where most of their water comes from the recreational lake Lanier. You might want to think twice about drinking the city water, okay? At a bare minimum, you need to get yourself, and this goes with well water or city water, but most especially city water, you want to get yourself a filter or filtration system, okay? The water that you drink, I believe every human should drink at least a gallon of water a day, minimum. Athletes and such, they're going to get into above the gallon mark, okay? But if you're just a normal everyday human, at least a gallon a day. Filter your water regardless, as far as your drinking water and your cooking water. Very important. So those are the pros and cons of city water. Let's look at well water, okay? Well water, I would say, as far as drinking water, it's the best. However, it's the best only if you follow these guidelines, okay? You want to make sure that there's no contaminations, I'd say within a 200-yard circle of your well. For example, if you're living on a farm and you have cattle, I would not have the cattle grazing within a 200-yard circle of that well, okay? Same thing with household pets, dogs and such, okay? I would just be careful about where you let those animals do their business around your water source, okay? Because those contaminants do go into the earth, into the water basin, and get into your well water. Same thing with farming. If you have a garden and you are using herbicides, pesticides, Roundup and such, okay, if you're big into landscaping your property, those chemicals, those fertilizers are getting into your water supply, okay? So you need to be very careful with that. My neighbors next door, they are not hooked up to city water, okay? They are hooked up to a well. They have 3 dogs, all of which do their business all around their yard. And just recently, their well water became contaminated with bacteria, okay? They got sick. And that is the only thing that I could think of that could have really contaminated their water, is the waste from the pets got into the water basin, okay? So something to think about there. So just be wary of what is getting into the soil within a 200-yard circle of where you live. Okay, now say you're in a mountainous area and your well can be uphill from where you are. Okay, you can shorten that distance. Okay. Next is the water pressure issue with well water. Okay, I can tell you right now, when you take a shower and you don't have adequate water pressure, your showers are lengthened and you can quickly become annoyed with, for example, trying to wash the soap out of your hair if you do not have adequate water pressure, okay? Now there are, I think, applications to where plumbers can add, I think, purulators or something to increase the water pressure. I'm not familiar with them. All of the homes that I have been accustomed to with well or spring water, their water pressure is absolutely subpar, okay? And typically, due to the vast amount of minerals in most well and spring water, that water pressure slowly gets worse over time because the mineral deposits build up in the water lines, the water filters, all the pipings, and basically those minerals solidify, and basically, just like clogged arteries in your body, okay, those passageways start to narrow and the water pressure becomes less and less, okay? Just recently, my grandmother had to literally take the filters off of her water lines for her well so she could increase the water pressure because she had no water pressure, okay? So that is a major issue with well, is the water pressure, and that is exacerbated by the increasing of the mineral deposits and contaminants, okay? Now, you want to have filters on your water lines coming from your well, Okay, very important. I would change those at a minimum once a month. If you got the money, change them every 2 weeks. Okay, very critical. So we humans, we need minerals, okay? And well water does supply minerals, all right? But oftentimes there are more minerals in that water than you need, okay? That's why I go back to filter on the water lines, your well filters. That's number one. Two, get yourself a pitcher or something with a filter before you drink the water, okay? So very important to minimize the minerals and any other particular contaminants that can get in your well water. All right. And another great pro about well water, is that you can be completely off the grid, okay, and have a water supply. That's another pro to it. You don't have to be near a city to have to tap into a city line. Okay, another downside to well water is startup costs. Okay, oftentimes it can take a couple of $1,000s to have a well dug or drilled and buy the necessary equipment and pay the necessary labor to start up the well service. Okay, so you're looking at a higher startup cost, but once that's paid for, you don't have to worry about a monthly water bill. Okay, so if you're going to be somewhere for a long period of time, it's probably worth the investment. But again, you just need to do it carefully and just monitor everything. Next is comparing if you have an issue. Okay, now, city water, if you have an issue, if it's on the city's side of your water meter, they are to handle it. Okay, in other words, they'll get to it when they get to it. Okay, it's probably an emergency for you if you don't have water or if your water is muddy, but at the end of the day, you have to wait on the city or the county to fix the water issue if it's on their side of the meter. With well water, you have complete control over that project. If you have an issue, you can take action immediately, call a well company, have them come out right away, or a plumbing company, repair the issue immediately, and you don't have to wait on the city or the county. Okay? So overall, I would say that as far as drinking water, well water is absolutely superior, but filter your well lines and still use an in-house water filter. Okay? So drinking water, well water wins out for sure. If you want to be off the grid, well water wins out. Okay, if you want to save money over the long term, well water wins out. As far as day-to-day operations, showering, laundry, washing dishes, washing your car, I would even say pressure washing your house. Okay, I was going to say watering your garden, but you don't want to water your garden with nothing but well water, because I'd say you don't have the chemicals from the city or the county that they use to treat the water. So there are pros and cons to both well water and city water. You'll just have to look at your own personal situation to decide which is best for you. If you got the money, why not do both? Okay, look at applications for both if you have the money. That's what I have. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment down below. Let's start a conversation on this topic. What things do you know about well water, city water that I might not know or did not mention in the video? I'll put a link down below for this pitcher that I use to filter everything that I drink and cook with. Tap the thumbs up icon and subscribe if you would, and share the video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.